رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واتقوا يوما ترجعون فيه إلى الله ثم توفى كل نفس ما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون، وصل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد كلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. We are gathered today to learn the practical methods of dealing with certain situations that occur at the time of somebody passing away, and then the situations after they are passed away, and the situations of how to deal with the burial of those who pass away. The reality is that each and every single one of us who are present in this room will certainly leave this world. That's without a doubt. Each and every single one of us who is present here or who can hear our voice, or even those who can't hear us, each and every single one of us will taste death. That's a guaranteed factor. The only factor that's not guaranteed is how will we die? What will be the situation when we leave this world? And that should be something that always makes us worry. This is something that we should always worry about. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أَكْثِرُوا ذِكْرَ حَادِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ الْمَوْتِ. Continuously remember that thing that will destroy your pleasures, which is death. Because the only guaranteed reality is that we will die. And also, it is mentioned that إِنَّمَا الْعِبْرَةُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ, that the whole life of a human being depends on how he leaves this world. How is his khatima? How he leaves this world, and what is his state at that time. Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam described the situation of a person who spends his whole life doing bad deeds, to the extent that between him and the fire of hell there's only one handspan left. He is so close to the fire of hell, but then in that last moment of his life or her life, the person does such a good deed that he enters into Jannah. On the other hand, a person spends his or her whole life doing good deeds to the extent that between him or her and Jannah there's only one handspan. But in the last moment, that person does such a bad deed that he enters into the fire of hell. So that's why we should never guarantee ourselves that we will enter Jannah. That if we are doing good deeds today, that means that we are guaranteed Jannah. That is no guarantee for us. We can only have hope. And that hope is what keeps us going. Bifadlillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said about a man who was passing away, and he had good hope in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I am with my servant according to how he thinks of me. What does he have hope in me? I give him what he hopes. So our hope in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the best of khawateen, the best of ends. So the discussion that we will start with, inshallah, as Maulana Ishtiaq, who is from Al-Markaz al-Islami in Bradford, will deliver the practical methodologies. Alhamdulillah, since many years he's been delivering seminars across the country in relation to the method of ghusl on kafan, especially, and alhamdulillah, he's also helped many people in the ghusl and kafan. So alhamdulillah, he's very experienced in this regard, and he'll practically show us how to carry this out. Because when it comes to the time when a loved one passes away, we are looking left and right. And especially the young brothers, they are often far away from those who are most close to them. Right? The most close relatives are far away and they're looking for some uncle, for some brother from far to come and help the deceased. But yet, we find within the books of fiqh, in light of the Quran and Sunnah, that the one who gives ghusl should be the one who will be most lenient. And the one who will automatically be most lenient is the one who is the closest relative. Because that affection and that love that's in his heart will not be in somebody who's not a relative. And that's why it's important for us all to learn this method. And when it comes to the time of ghusl and kafan, it is fardul kifaya. It is for some members of this community to be able to do this action. And when we look towards our community, or we look towards our specific families, because each family or each group of people have specific people who help them at that time. When we look towards the age of those people who are doing this assistance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. Allah bless them, for their assistance. But these uncles and these aunties, they wish to pass on this to others. Alhamdulillah, Allah reward those who practically teach our brothers and sisters how to carry out these actions so that they can know how to carry this out at the time of need. This seminar and the breakdown of it starts with what will happen at the time of ihtidar, at the time when a person is about to leave this world. Alhamdulillah, the slides that Maulana has prepared will show us some aspects of this. But I've been told to discuss in relation to this, and also briefly in relation to janazah, and in relation to the burial. And inshallah, Maulana Sahib will also go over some aspects of these, but most of his presentation will be specifically in relation to ghusl and kafan. When the time of death comes, and the signs that the person is passing away come. Now some people pass away suddenly, alhamdulillah, some pass away in the state of sajda, some pass away performing salah, some pass away doing tawaf, some pass away in front of the blessed Rawda of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right, so some just pass away without any sign that they're going and just suddenly pass away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us such deaths. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us such ease at the time of death. And others face sakarat. Others face that time when they are leaving this world and there are a few hours left, or there are a few days left. But the signs are there that they will soon leave this world. And that's not a bad thing either, because this also happened to many great people. And our Master sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, because it was not possible for anyone to overcome his power sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was not martyred on the battlefield, but rather he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left this world whilst in the hands of his wife, the mother of believers, Sayyidah Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So the sunnah at that time is to make the person face towards the Qibla. So if it's possible, make them face towards the Qibla where they are. If that's not possible, then you are allowed to even put their feet towards the Qibla and raise their head or raise the bed a bit up so that the head is facing towards the Qibla, towards the Holy Kaaba. Now generally it is not allowed to put your feet towards the Kaaba. Alhamdulillah, in today's gathering that's not visible. Nobody has their feet towards the Qibla. In so many gatherings, unfortunately, When people are finding themselves uncomfortable on the floor, they're putting their feet towards the Qibla, which is disliked, severely disliked. So, in certain circumstances, you are allowed to put your feet towards the Qibla, and this is one of them. It is important that we continuously encourage them and remind them at this very sensitive time of there being none worthy worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the final messenger of Allah. By continuously reciting near them, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Now this is a very sensitive and emotional time for the family. And because although death is a reality, there's certain times when somebody's passing away, we don't want them to go. Right? So it might be our child's going, or our young brother's going, our young sister's going, our parents are going, and we don't want them to leave. And we don't want to accept that reality at that time. So some family members get emotional when people start reciting the kalima. Alhamdulillah, many families are moving away from this jahiliyyah. The zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani rahimahullah says in Muwatta, Imam Muhammad, I'm looking towards some of those students who studied that, Dhikrullahi hasanun ala kulli hal. The remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good in all situations. So alhamdulillah, we want shifa. We want Allah to grant them shifa. But we are also fearful of death. We should always be fearful of death. And therefore we should recite the shahada in front of them continuously. That even if we're, some people only marry right? You're making him die now, you're already reading the kalima. Is kalima only to be recited at the time of death? Alhamdulillah, we were discussing the other week about kalima being recited at people's nikah, at marriages. Right? And before we send them into the marriage home, we say, Zara kalme to yaad nahi na. Maulana Sahaba have kalme pad. Right? They don't teach you the kalima, they say to read them. So make sure you know them off by heart, in case Maulana puts you on the spot and says recite them. Right? So at times of marriages even, we do recite the kalima. And the Prophet ﷺ said, renew your iman. The Sahaba said, how should we renew our iman? He said, by continuously saying, La ilaha illallah. So alhamdulillah, where you should make your house alive with the dhikr of Allah. You should make yourself used to the hearing of dhikr of Allah and hearing the salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So sometimes when you're reciting this, you find that the person is making a noise. Now that is a state where the person is trying to say something, and we can't hear. Right? We can't hear what they're saying. So sometimes that even causes panic as well. Oh, stop reading, because whenever you read, it's causing them to become emotional. But how do we know whether that's a good emotion or a bad emotion? There was one time when I visited a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him Jannah, one of our elders, and when I was near him, I was reciting Ala Hazrat Dua, Ya ilahi har jagah teri ata ka saath ho, jab bade mushkil shahe mushkil kusha ka saath ho, Ya ilahi bhul jaun naza ki takleef ko, shad ye deedar husn Mustafa ka saath ho. At that time, what do we want? At the time when our ruh is leaving, we want to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that uncle, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him Jannah, was crying during that time. He was trying to say Ameen, right? And you could tell he's trying to say Ameen. With continuously, his body was moving and making noise. Now some people who are away from the deen would say, why are you disturbing him? Why are you distressing him by reciting the kalima in front of him? But that's not distress. And the other thing for us as individuals to think about is, if listening to the kalima causes me distress, then I need to sort something out in my life. So if every time I hear the kalima I become panicked, then there's something wrong. If I'm used to listening to the kalima and to the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then at that time, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. By the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hearts gain comfort. So what gives comfort to the hearts is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we're remembering Allah, when we're reciting the kalima, when we're reciting salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then at that time that brings peace to our hearts. And that should bring peace to the people who are passing away. And this is a very, very sensitive time. Because as we mentioned earlier, that this is the time when the person's whole life will be stamped by this action. You often hear the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only by intentions. Your intentions have to be pure. But that's the start of the action. That before you do the action, your intentions have to be pure. But the stamp upon the action is the khatima. How you left this world. Did you leave this world with iman or not? So that's why it is important to recite the kalima to protect the person who's passing away from the attacks of shaitan. The person who's doing this encouragement, this talqeen, should be a pious person. And similarly, near the person who's passing away, the surahs such as Surah Yasin and Surah Al-Ra'd should be recited. Now when the person has passed away, inshallah the further details will be mentioned by Maulana Sahib. When the person has passed away, at that time it is important that we ensure that we close the eyes of the person who passed away. We place a bandage or something else over the head and the jaws to ensure that the mouth stays closed. And we straighten the hands of the person on the sides. When closing the eyes, there are du'as mentioned within the books, such as Bismillah wa ala millati Rasulillah. Now after the person passed away, you will be learning how to do the ghusl and the kafan. In terms of the Salatul Janazah and the methodology of Salatul Janazah, alhamdulillah, every time Salatul Janazah comes, you have a brief summary at the beginning of how Salatul Janazah is to be performed. We all know that Salatul Janazah is Fardul Kifaya. So there's one thing that's Fardul Ain and one thing that's Fardul Kifaya. Fardul Ain is fard upon every single individual, whilst Fardul Kifaya, like we say the word in the Urdu language, we say kafi, right? This is enough. So Fardul Kifaya is such that if one or two people did this, then that is enough for the whole community. So if a few people have done it, then every single person in the community is forgiven. The Fardul Ain is something that if we as an individual miss it, it cannot be compensated by somebody else doing it. So like the 5 daily salahs are Fardul Ain. They are fard upon every single person. They're not just fard upon a few. But the janazah is Fardul Kifaya. If a few people of the community have done it, the rest of us are free from sin. But we'll notice in the masjids, you'll notice how at the time of salah, the population is less. And at the time of janazah, the halls are filled. So our focus is on Fardul Kifaya instead of Fardul Ain. What we could have been forgiven for not being in, we are very worried about that. But what we are not forgiven from missing, we don't get bothered about it. So that is a point to consider. In terms of Salatul Janazah, the two major aspects, the two rukn of Janazah are to say the takbir, to say Allahu Akbar 4 times, and to stand. To stand up during the Janazah is also a rukn, it's an important aspect of the Janazah. Unless the person has a valid reason to sit down. And valid reason is a very vast word. Inshallah, I will just leave it at that in terms of valid reasons. After the takbir, the first Allahu Akbar, you recite Thana. And you add on the word, وَجَلَّ ثَنَاؤُكَ وَلَا إِلَهَ غَيْرُكَ. But if you didn't add the words on, the janazah will still be fine. After the second takbir, you recite Durood Sharif, Salawat. The famous one that's performed in Salah, this is better. But otherwise, any Salawat will also be fine. And in the same way, after the third takbir, you do the dua. Now some of us, alhamdulillah, will know the dua perfectly. There will be others who have forgotten these du'as, don't remember them. For them, either they should practice before going, and otherwise, you can recite any du'a after the third takbir. Any du'a that is in relation to the akhirah and is from the Quran and Sunnah is better. Now in terms of the du'as as well, we also specify just one. You know the famous Allahumma ghfir li hayyina wa mayyitina. But there's actually many du'as mentioned within the narrations, within the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So the actual du'as that are to be recited in accordance to the sunnah are many. And for example, Imam Ahmad Rada rahimahullah, he made a will that the person who perform his janazah, his son can only perform his janazah if he knows all of these du'as off by heart. And the du'as amount to 14 du'as. Now obviously we have to also take into account that we have elders behind us, and therefore the imams can't elongate too much. But it's good to add on some of those du'as with the intention of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is something that generally we don't focus upon, that we think that there's only one specific dua and that's it. In terms of the burial, because I don't want to be too long between us and Maulana Sahib's presentation. In terms of the burial, at the time of burial, what should one do? Now first of all, when we are taking the person into the grave, the best people to take them into the grave are those who are their closest relatives and the pious people. And it is good to take them, to place them in the grave head first. And when they are in the grave, their face is towards the Qibla. Generally, you will find that all of this is already structured for us, right? And when we place them into the grave, there is a dua to recite at that time as well. And this is why it's good, because now we're telling you the dua, but at that time people forget the duas. That's why it's good to have somebody with you who can tell you the duas, such as the local imams or the scholars, that they stand there, they also encourage you and teach you. And the presence of them there is also a great blessing. So when placing the mayyit into the grave, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. It's not necessary to open up the final folds that are placed on top of the coffin, but it's a good thing to do. And this is mentioned within the books, that you open them up. Similarly, in England we have the box, which is covered at the top. It is best to remove the lid of the box so that there is direct connection to the soil. And it's also a good action established from the Sunnah to take the soil with your hands and place it towards the head of the mayyit once the slabs have been placed upon them. There's du'as at that time as well. So the Hufaz of the Quran will especially remember this ayah, مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. So the first time you raise your hands, you read that and place, and the second time, وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ, and the third time, وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. So this is the summary of what we're to do at the grave. And after the burial, again another test comes for the mayyit, for the person who's passed away. And that is the test of the questions of the grave. It's mentioned within Al-Mu'jam al-Kabir of Imam al-Tabarani, rahimahullah, that the Prophet ﷺ said that when your Muslim brother passes away and you have placed the soil upon him, then one of you should stand beside his grave and say, Ya Fulan bin Fulana. You should say, oh so and so, son of so and so, and mention the mother's name. If he doesn't know the mother's name, then he can say, son of Hawa, as we are all the children of Hawa. When he says it's the first time, the person will hear you, will not answer. Then he says the second time, and he will sit up. And the third time, he will say, mention to me what you would want to say, Allah have mercy upon you. And then at that time, the person should say, whether it's in Arabic or in English, but it's better in the Arabic in accordance with the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, اذكر ما خرجت من الدنيا شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وأنك رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد نبيا وبالقرآن إماما. So remember what you left this dunya with, which is the testimony that there is none worthy of worship but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his servant and final messenger, and that you are pleased with Allah as your Lord, as Islam as your deen, and as Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as your prophet, and as the Quran as your leader. The two angels will come, the Munkar and Nakir will hold their hands and say, why should we sit with this person? Why should we ask this person questions whose proof has already been established? So this is the benefit of reciting this. And there's other words of talqeen also mentioned. It's also mentioned that it's mustahab to stay there for the time that it takes to sacrifice a camel. Meaning you should stay there for a long time, reciting the Quran and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this will give the person in the grave, this will give his ruh some solace and some peace at that time. Because death is not annihilation. Death doesn't mean the person finished. You know, one day I was speaking to a non-Muslim who used to be a police officer in London, and he says, often I dealt with dead bodies. And he'd say, eventually I got used to it, you know, on the train, somebody got run over, I got used to it, and I used to pick them up and take them out, and he said, you know, after that they're not human now, it's not a human being now, they're no longer living, they can't feel what I'm doing, and you know, and that was his ideology. But we understand that there's a connection between the body and the ruh. The ruh has not finished, the soul has not finished, and this is not something that's just established within the beliefs of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah alone, but rather all schools of thought accept this, that death is a separation between body and soul. Death is not the annihilation or the finishing of the soul. And that's why everybody accepts within the ahadith what is the dua to recite at the graveyard. Assalamu alaikum dara qawmi mu'mineen wa assalamu alaikum ya ahlul qubur. So you are giving salam to them. And also, we all understand that there's a situation of barzakh, the situation of life. Between this life of the dunya and the akhirah, there is a state which the mayyit is in. And that is why, inshallah, when Maulana Sahib comes now, we will find that the way in which we do the ghusl and the way in which we do the kafan has to be done with extreme care. We have to realize that this person can feel what we are doing. Right? And therefore we have to treat them with care. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for any errors. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten our hearts with true knowledge of the deen and grant us the best of ends. Ameen bi jahi Nabi Kareem. I would now like to introduce Maulana Ishtiaq. Alhamdulillah, he's a senior teacher at the Markaz of Islami in Naat, and Alhamdulillah studied under many great ulama, including Ustaz ulama Mufti Aslam Bandialwi and many other scholars, alhamdulillah. And like I said earlier, in terms of this topic and this presentation, he's been delivering this for numerous years, alhamdulillah. Even within our classes, when we have classes in the Markaz, the practical sessions are often delivered by Maulana Sahib with the students. Alhamdulillah is always prepared. Further students can also deliver practical. Alhamdulillah, he's the main source of practicality, and that's why when the brothers asked that we would like a practical presentation, he was the first person who came to mind. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him in his knowledge, in his amal, and in his zuhud and piety. I call him now, inshallah, to come forward and inshallah enlighten us in this blessed revelation.